To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastman's Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? I got a brand new Eastman's Elevated for you. So this week on the podcast, I have on Jim Winjum. Jim Winjum is the founder of Kenetrek Boots, and a couple weeks back, me and the Eastmans did a podcast tour, and so I sit down with Jim, also Guy and Ike Eastman sit in on the podcast, and for good reason too. You know, Guy and Ike have been friends with Jim for 20 years, so they've got this great connection and chemistry on the podcast, and then Jim is just such an adventurer. I think he's been on more sheep hunts than anybody I know, and he's a great storyteller and super humble, and so we just get chatting on the podcast. It's just a great recording, good hunting content in it, and then there's some great tips in there too about boots and socks and lacing and foot care. Just some great tips coming into season. I mean, there's nothing that'll cripple you more on a hunt than getting a blister. You just feel it every step. So great recording. I really enjoyed it. I think you guys will too. Sponsor for today's show is Yeti Coolers. Yeti's a great company, and they just make great products. They make high-end coolers. I mean, you guys know Yeti, but they also make coffee cups, and they make thermoses, and you know, I put ice water for a full day of construction and 90-degree heat in my thermos, and I still have ice at the end of the day. And same thing with their coffee cups. I have a hot cup of coffee in the morning, and I mean, I can sip my coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I get off work, and it's still hot. Just amazing products, and their coolers have changed the way I hunt. Their coolers, they just keep ice longer to where I can keep out on extended trips and have ice in my cooler for when I harvest game. I can put it in there and cool it down and keep my meat cool because I do hunt so many early seasons. I also love that it's a bear-proof container, so when I'm camping on national forest or state lands that have requirements on a bear-proof container, I don't have to worry about hanging up my food every night. It's got a place for a lock on the cooler, and then it's grizzly bear-proof. That way you don't get written a ticket, or worse yet, have a grizzly bear get into your food in camp, which would be a nightmare. But Yeti, they're just a great company, and can't thank them enough for sponsoring the podcast. And with that, boy, we're getting close to season here. I am getting excited. I am fired up, running like a madman, shooting like crazy, taking my shooting to the next level. Like, I am ready to cut these legs loose for season. So I know we're still in July, but I really get kicked off here in August. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Keeping in touch with Eastmans, and we're trying to figure out if we're going to film a couple hunts or not. And so trying to get approval and permits for those and just work out these details. And before you know it, I'm going to be in the woods. I started off with caribou hunt in Alaska. I cannot wait to go back and do this. And so yeah, I'm getting fired up. I know you guys are too. So just want to get some good recordings out to you guys here before season, and then record some good ones while I'm hunting, you know, when I get together with buddies. So really looking forward to putting together those recordings and just keep this thing rolling. So let's get this podcast started. So it's Jim Winjum, Guy and Ike Eastman. It's me. It's Eastman's Elevated. Here we go. Okay, I'm live here at the Kenetrek office. I'm sitting down with founder Jim Winjum, and this is a real treat for me. So I'm sitting down. I got Guy Eastman, I got Ike Eastman, and Jim, and we're going to sit down and record a podcast. Jim's the founder of Kenetrek, and he's also a very accomplished hunter. So thanks for being on, Jim.
You bet. Happy to be here.
Yep. We've already, I wish I could have hit record about 10 minutes ago. You've already told like 3 or 4 good stories. But yeah, maybe you can tell us just a little bit how you started Kenetrek and kind of the growth of the company and where you guys are planning to head in the future.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, when we originally started, I'm kind of a big, tall, gangly, uncoordinated, mountain hunter, which those two things don't really go together. So I always tell people, there's a reason that you don't see giraffes in the mountains. That's me. So I also was blessed with really, really bad feet. And so kind of the heritage of the company is that I decided that at an early age that I loved to hunt sheep. and I have really bad feet. Those don't go together either. And so I recognized very early on that there was, I guess what I'd call a void in the marketplace for really good quality hunting boots. And, you know, I mean, there's some American-made boots and, you know, lots of boots from Cabela's, and I worked at a company called Schnee's for many, many years. And there was good boots, but nothing that quite did the job for me, you know, because I have a narrow, bony foot and a lot of foot movement, especially if you get into uneven terrain. Just blisters like you wouldn't believe and a lot of pain. And if you guys have ever been on a hardcore mountain hunt, you know that that's a prescription for disaster, you know, just...
Well, you take your wheels out and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. You're spending time in the tent and just thinking, what did I sign up for? I think every sheep hunt I've ever been on, at some point you stop and you say, I can't believe I'm paying money for this torture.
You've been on a couple of those tortures this year.
It seems like every time. I mean, I so wish that I was the first. You hear about hunts where a guy kills the ram, you know, first day. I'm like, I can't even imagine what that's like. I'm like the last day. I was just telling you the story.
Eighth day of a 7-day.
Yeah, exactly. The day after the last day. I mean, I'm usually deep. I'm lucky drawing tags, not so much lucky on the hunt itself.
So how did you come up with the designs? I assume, because they haven't evolved a ton. I mean, you've gone into different lines and made boots for different things, but some of your mountain hunters, I mean, it's like...
Well, they look the same. I mean, it's like we've continually, like I'm an absolute perfectionist, and so all of the designs, like internally within those boots, like some of the factories we work with in Italy primarily, they come back and they say, can we just have 1 year where we don't change anything? And I'm like, no. I mean, because if I can figure out something to do to improve the boot, we're going to do that. And that drives them crazy because it's retooling and new training and, you know, different materials. And, you know, it definitely keeps throwing them curveballs. But like the way I look at it, that we have a repair center, which is one of the keys to our success. You know, we have thousands and thousands of boots that come in every year to be rebuilt. And if you think about that, what better guinea pigs can we have? You know, I mean, thousands. And we'll actually go back there and take a look at that, and you can see some of the racks of boots. I mean, every single day, like a couple of full racks of boots come in for resoles. Wow. So it's almost like that's where all of the Kenetrek boots go to die, right? is like I get to see them, you know, on a daily basis. I can see where are they failing. You know, where can we shore them up? Where can we improve them? So that's been a real key to our success, is that closeness to the customer. And we continue to improve. I mean, you know, a lot of, like I say, the overall look of the boots has been kind of the same, but there's many, many internal changes. And, you know, I mean, we've kind of been a pretty small company, but it's almost like we act like we're much bigger than we are. You know, like we've actually redesigned our own last shape. You know, a company our size, who does that? Nobody does that.
Right.
I mean, to go over there and actually work with the last manufacturers and say, okay, well, you know, we want to change the heel cup in the boots. I mean, there's nobody else that does that. Typically they just go to whatever the factory is and they use their own last, you know. And so our boot, even though they look the same with a lot of the boots that are out there, I mean, they're very, very different from the ground up all the way through.
And progressing. So you guys are resoling them now here.
Oh yeah. We actually we lease it out to a good friend of mine that I worked at Schnee's with for many, many years, and that's Jeff Carter. And so I went to him and talked to him and said, hey, you know, I think you need to open a repair facility here in this building. And so they do. I don't know if they'll do 10,000 this year, but they're getting close to that. It's a staggering number.
That's a lot of stinky boots.
It is.
What a great way to evolve and improve your boots, though, is to be able to look at all the boots that come in and see where they're breaking down, and also listening to your customers' feedback. And that's why you know, you've been able to do so well with the Kenetrek brand. Yeah,
no question. I mean, we have the hardest users on the planet. I mean, some of the, you know, I mean, really, you think about a stone sheep guide, you know, that's not just going on several hunts a year. I mean, they're out there for how many months scouting? I mean, they literally wear them out. And same thing, you know, on the other end, you know, the desert sheep guides. I can remember we had a one of the guides from Tiburon that would send me pictures of his boots, because I'm like, you can't wear a pair of boots out in a year. He's like, oh yeah, I do. And he sent me pictures after each hunt, and it was like somebody took a belt sander and just went right down through. The last couple hunts, his socks, I mean, of course, white tube socks, like Walmart type tube socks, they're sticking out the end. And I'm like, that's impossible. How could you do that?
And then you go down there.
Yeah, it's like that's the brutal environment that they're in. And so, even though I'm not that hardcore of a user, I get to, go and pretend to be tough, for my 1 week, or actually I think 4 days, and I'm done. But anyway, I get to go and pretend. But those guys are the real deal. The guides that actually wear out a pair of boots a year. That's a pretty impressive feat.
Well, and it's got to be a difficult challenge, too, because you're trying to build boots for all these different habitats and all these different conditions. In that dry desert habitat down there, I think it was probably a lot rougher than even Arizona, but that rocky, dry country, it's hard on leather. And then, like you say, those rocks and the sharp edges to it, they'll wear out boots in a hurry.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I remember I went on a Barbary sheep hunt. Have you done that, Guy, at any point? And we were down in some rocks there, and I don't know what the actual geology of the rocks are, but they're so sharp. They look like just a normal granite, or limestone boulder, and you put your hand on it, it'll literally cut your skin. They're that sharp, just like razor. It's quite amazing. I mean, you almost have to hunt with gloves just to be able to touch the stones.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, I just got back from Hawaii. In fact, I'm still healing up from the lava rock. I've got scratches on me, but that lava rock is just brutal on you and on your boots and your gear and your equipment.
Yeah, no question.
So yeah, that different conditions, different habitats, and to try to build a boot that will do well in all those environments is got to be a challenge.
It is a challenge, and like even with our outsoles, like I say, we've done a lot of things that a company our size really is abnormal, and one is to design our own outsoles. I mean, most companies would go to the Vibram or the regular outsole manufacturers that really know their business, right? And we're like this small upstart company that says, no, I can do better. I guess that's kind of my attitude. It's like what are you thinking, and I'm sure the outsole guys say the same thing, but that's part of the challenge, right? Is I want to design an outsole tread that will perform in a wide variety of terrains like that, but primarily off trail. Most of what we're gearing our designs towards is the mountain hunter, the western mountain hunter, the sheep hunter.
Right.
And then it gets even, so that's the tread design itself, but then it also comes into what is the perfect hardness of that rubber, the different features, and
if it's too hard, it's slick on rocks. If it's too soft, it wears out really fast.
Exactly. And so finding that sweet spot of what's the perfect durometer of durability, for that rubber that gives you the ultimate traction and then also reasonable durability. And then we have to gear it towards, okay, is it guides or hunters? Because those are two vastly different things. Right. Like I say, the typical hunter is lucky to get 1 week, on his hunt. There's some training involved, of course, but most guides are just brutal. I mean, they pretty much expect to replace their boots once a year.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like what you said, designed for off-trail. So you make any boot that'll hold up on a hard track trail, but to get it to hold up in that steep country, like where you hunt sheep, where I hunt high country mule deer in these different states, that country is brutal on gear, and you could come out of that hunt if you choose the wrong boots with your socks showing out the front.
For sure.
Yeah, they put a wear and tear on it. But you'd mentioned, you just told this story about killing. How do you kill a sheep on the 8th day of a 7-day hunt?
Was that your final ram for?
Yeah, that was my rifle Grand Slam ram.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which was a big deal. But yeah, I've been so incredibly fortunate over the years. I think as far as drawing permits and winning hunts and different things like that, I think I counted up the other day and it was 16 what I'd call once in a lifetime draws or or hunts.
Well, that's the deal.
You're being modest, Jim. You drew 2 desert sheep tags in the same year, did you not? It was Arizona and Nevada?
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, you're using up all your luck in the drawings.
Yeah.
It's the deal.
yeah, exactly.
You're definitely getting your money's worth on the adventure, though.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm really due to be hit by a bus tomorrow. Yeah, anyway, I was at a dinner with your dad, actually, and Mike Wick, our sales rep guy, we went to a dinner, and Mike was, he can be kind of grumpy sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he
Which
said,
Mike?
he says to me, like, he didn't understand that I had drawn, like, he knew a lot of my tags that I drew, and I told him that, oh yeah, I drew an Arizona antelope permit. He starts, what the? he's like, I didn't even know about that one. I go, oh yeah, I drew that with, like, I don't know, 5 points or something. He's like, I've been applying for 35 years and still have never drawn one. He was better about that than any of the sheep hunts.
Yeah. He's still got 26 points for Arizona or some crazy thing, and nothing.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, though.
Oh, gosh.
So I've had, way disproportionate amount of luck. I need to, actually, my wife says, you're not applying for anything, are you? when I won the Marco Polo hunt at the Wild Sheep Foundation, somebody drew my name. It literally, there was booze through the crowd.
I'm sorry about that, Jim. It just got me off guard.
So that's not good.
Yeah, but it is all about the adventure. And boy, you've been on some amazing adventures. Yeah, that's crazy to be able to go on the desert sheep hunts and then to be able to get your Grand Slam, the stone sheep and doll sheep. You have so many beautiful mounts out front there in the showroom. It's amazing how petite those desert rams are.
Oh yeah. Except for the horns. I mean, it was like
heavy.
I remember when I killed that ram, I walked up on that. I was by myself on that one actually, and walked up on that ram at dark, of course, 2 days after the end of the hunt. You know, that's a typical scenario for me. But anyway, walked up on that ram, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I mean, just incredible. Yeah. So.
Because you end up killing one with a gun and one with a bow, right?
I did, yeah. Again,
nice
because I drew the 2, and so, well, if you've got 2, I thought get one with a gun and one with a bow, and I succeeded making it a marathon on both of them. But I ended up killing. So I hunted Nevada for a whole hunt, and then I went over and hunted Arizona for a whole hunt, and then failed at both of them, and so I went back to Nevada. Yeah, because I thought, well, this is the best time to do it, and I pretty much had it dialed in by then. There was a pretty steep learning curve there, especially doing it on your own. And so was able to kill. I actually had to heal up my tender feet for a day, so I kind of just bombed around and scouted and looked at rams and kind of acquired targets, so to speak. And then the next day I went and it was actually a second ram I went after, and was able to get him with a bow. And I, of course, you can't even imagine that elated feeling. I mean,
So you shot your first ram with a bow?
Yes. Well, not my first desert ram. Yeah, first desert ram.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, 200 miles probably from the next person, and I'm jumping up and down, just screaming. My screams are just echoing off the canyons. I mean, if somebody saw me, they thought sure I was crazy. But and then so I took the sheep down to Pat Cummins, who was the head biologist in Las Vegas, and checked the sheep in, and he was out of tags and whatever. And I said, well, I got to run over to Arizona because I'm on a hot streak, so I'm going to run over there and get my desert there. He's like, what?
Said no one ever.
He starts really doing the background check. Is this a legit tag? Did you make a copy of one?
And then I ended up going over there, and so it was 2 days later, and like I say, we had hunted there and come really close several times, so I knew the area and was able to go in. I had a bunch of people coming to help me the next day, and went in there and bombed around by myself, ended up getting heat stroke, and was kind of just looking for shade out there. It's hard to believe you can get heat stroke in December, but it was hot, and it's lava flows that I was out on, and I was coming back through there and was able to find a band of rams and killed my ram, came back, and you can imagine when I went to check that one in at Arizona, and I told them, I got to run back over and get my other ram that I killed a couple days ago. Those guys were like, what? Wait a minute.
Jeez. I bet they were on the phone with each other real quick as soon as you left.
He's like, I don't think.
Is this a legit story?
He says, I don't think that's ever happened in modern history, legally. Probably some renegade that did it, but anyway, yeah, pretty amazing.
Well, did that start the whole next Grand Slam of archery?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always kind of had. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I never even had a single Grand Slam ever in my mind, but these things happen, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, maybe, and so then the whole bow thing, and all of a sudden now I find myself at 3. If I'd have stopped at 2, I could quit, but 3, you can't.
You only got one more, right?
One more.
Is it the stone you're missing now with the bow?
It's the doll.
Oh, the doll.
Yeah, doll sheep with a bow, and so I actually go this July. I head to Ghana River in Northwest Territories for an attempt anyway.
Next month?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So
That's cool. That's so much fun.
So it'll be a try anyway. I gotta not get my hopes up too much, but I can't think of a better attempt.
Wow.
It'll be
That
awesome.
is wild, Jim. Yeah, to kill those with a bow is such an accomplishment. I love hunting with a bow, and I love the challenge of it. But yeah, I can just, like, when you talk about that desert sheep and being so elated, like us backcountry hunters, and especially you for these sheep hunts, when you get one of those coveted tags, I bet you train like a madman, and you're researching, putting everything into it, and then you ran out of time on the hunts and returned back.
Yeah.
And then to have it all come together and to get within a stone's throw of one of those things, and a ram you actually want to harvest is amazing. And then to keep your cool and not let the adrenaline get a hold of you.
No, I've never been able to do that.
Yeah, that's wild. One more left, July hunt. So you're training hard now, huh?
Yeah, kinda. You would think I'd be doing better, but I'm like, well, I'm going with a buddy who's taking pictures and stuff, and I figure I got 2 things going for me. One, it's a horseback hunt, which I don't love horses. I mean, but it's a little bit better than a straight out backpack hunt. And the other thing is my partner's got a broken foot, so I figure I got 2 aces in the hole.
Well, and you just got off another hunt, right?
Yeah, my Arctic adventure.
You got to tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I went after polar bear, because I don't know why, actually. But
I know why. It's on my list, too.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. That's on my bucket list.
Well, it's my partner, Charlie, in Tajikistan, right? So
Yeah.
I was in Tajikistan for the Marco Polo, and he's the one. I blame him, and he blames me. I've never met his wife. I said, I'm blaming you totally for this hunt. He goes, my wife hates you. Typical hunters, right? You're blaming the other guy. But anyway, he put it in my head. He said, there might be a possibility that they'll review that, that ban, and now would be the good time to go and whatever. And so I talked to my good friend Dustin Rowe, and he had just done it, and I said, I'll put some feelers out, and that's always a mistake, right? Because
just get the checkbook out at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you start heading down a road that's like, oh shoot, why did I ever start this adventure? But anyway, that was I'm glad I saw it. I don't think I'd ever want to live there. It's very stark and very cold. It was brutally cold.
You did that with a bow too, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh boy!
Which is lucky your bow doesn't explode. I mean, it's so dang cold, and you got so many clothes. It's just, yeah, that was. I think I have some mental blocks on that one actually.
So they put you in a little. It's not a little. It's a big sled.
Big
dog
sled.
kennel and skis.
Yeah. That's enclosed.
Yeah.
Not heated, but
well,
enclosed.
it looks almost like if you looked at like a little barge, that pushes ships. That's kind of what it looks like. It's a Comtex box.
Okay.
And you sit in there on a little bench seat, but there's no suspension in it whatsoever, and you just get beat to death.
What do they strap it to a snowmobile and off they go?
Off they go. Big sleds, I mean, they're running 1,200 cc sleds, and boom, and they just go. I mean, they strap that baby on. It's like hang on for dear life. And you have no communication with him. I mean, you can see the guy, but he occasionally will look back, like maybe at lunchtime or something like that.
Make sure he didn't lose you somewhere.
Do the inmates need fed? I don't know. We'll stop at an hour.
It's tough, really tough.
Dislocated your jaw?
Oh yeah, a couple times. So you have to clench your. I'm thinking the John Wayne thing. You put a leather strap in there and bite down. It's quite something, quite an experience. But it was funny. The first night we get there, my partner Charlie comes out. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this." He goes, "I can't go 1 more mile." And the guy comes around and he says, they talk and they talk in their native language and. I can see him arguing back and forth, and he comes back over. And Charlie just said, "I can't go another mile." And he comes back over and he says, "Get in the box, Charlie. We're moving on." Because they decided to camp somewhere else. But it's brutal.
So you guys didn't hunt together?
Yeah, the whole time we were together. Yeah, it was a 2-on-1 type deal.
Okay.
So yeah, we saw it was pretty amazing just to see that environment and so many polar bears. Like every single pressure ridge, anywhere that you had a break in the ice or an iceberg, there was bear tracks on it, every single one.
Wow.
And those bears basically, like I think of them as almost like vampires because they hunt at night and that's all they do is kill, right?
Right.
And like his bear actually came into camp. We had missed a couple and had some bad weather days, and we were actually headed back, and they had told him, I don't know that your odds are going down that you're going to get one. And they actually spotted a bear out there, and they actually lured that bear into the camp. So they would go out the snow machines, let him see him at 500-600 yards. And he, pretty much those bears have never seen a person. And so anything they see, they basically come to eat.
Right.
And so they brought him right back into camp. And of course, then by the
gosh.
time he sees the tents, he's like, "Oh, there's definitely something to eat there."
Yeah,
Here he comes.
That's a big meal.
Yeah, exactly. And he shot a giant, over 10 feet.
Oh my gosh!
Just absolutely huge.
Jeez.
Missing teeth and stuff. They're an absolutely amazing animal. All cut up, and they just just a really violent
How old
life
is a bear like
have.
that? Because they last,
He's-
they live.
Yeah,
really
I think
long.
they'll live 20 years. I don't think most of them do, just because their life is so rough. And they're notorious, those old males, for killing the cubs, and it's just a brutal life that they live. And the sows have to be pretty ferocious, to keep those other bears off of them. But pretty amazing. We saw lots. I think we ended up seeing about 15 bears all total. And we could have seen many more, but they can actually tell by the tracks, obviously if it's a sow and a cub, or they could even, those guys they've been doing it for, eons.
Yeah.
And so they can actually tell, it's like, oh, that bear's not healthy, because they can look at the pad in the snow and tell how much fat is around the heel bone. And so they would go, no, that's a skinny, 8-footer. That bear's not doing well. They could actually diagnose that by the track. It's just pretty amazing, I'm like, what do you mean skinny? He goes, see it, see how its bone is like that? He's like, he looks like you.
Eat some more soup blubber.
Yeah.
How were the accommodations up there?
Accommodations?
I say that loosely.
Yeah, we stayed in like a little 10-foot, like the smallest wall tent you've ever seen, so like maybe 10 by 8. And, you're sleeping on 6 feet of ice. And so they lay down, they scrape out the snow, lay down cardboard boxes. Then it's a bunch of caribou hides. Then it's kind of some foamies. And then you lay your pads on there. But everything, and then the way they heat is just kind of funny, because they actually will heat that tent. And it's kind of an insulated tent, which just means it's quilted. But they heat with an open burner Coleman stove. Right, and
turn the burner on.
Turn the burner on, yeah. And,
Oh my gosh!
And we're in this small enclosed space,
But the first
right?
night you're going, hope we wake up.
Yeah, well, and then our stove kept going out, right? So then you're just getting fuel, right? So you go from carbon monoxide to just straight, jet fuel, whatever. And my partner looks at me one time. He says, "Do you taste that?" And I go, "Well, yeah, what is that? Ether?" He goes, "No, I think it's brain cells." So,
How cold did it get at night?
It was
below?
No, it's 40 below, air temp. But we had a couple days where it was 45 miles an hour of wind.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, don't even want to
Six
compute
feet.
that.
and it's 85 below. I mean, I frostbit, 3 of my toes on my right foot, and then I'm in the airport and I'm coming back and I like itch my nose. My whole nose comes off in my hand. I'm like, that's kind of cool but creepy at the same time. You could just see the whole impression.
Wonder what Customs is going to say about me walking back through.
Yeah, and you're covered up the whole time, but boy, it doesn't take very long and you really freeze. I mean, any of that exposure to that wind, it's just brutal, absolutely brutal. I mean, it was cold and we had, obviously our heaviest insulated boots and socks and, long underwear, and I mean everything, and even the, the activated charcoal. I use those all the time. Yeah. But then a lot of times you're not moving either, right. So you're just sitting there, getting beat up. So you don't generate a lot of heat that way. But yeah, it was a cold experience. And the funny thing is that the native guys, they're sweating. Like the sun would come out and they're sweating.
You're kidding.
I'm like, it's 25 below zero, and they got sweat running down their face. I mean, they're just completely adapted to it. It's an amazing experience.
What were they wearing?
They wore a lot of traditional garb, like seal skin suits and kind of what you would see, with the traditional fur around the face. And they're tough. I'll tell you that. They are tough. But I was thinking, we just shouldn't be out here. Anything happens, you die, right? Yeah. You run out of fuel, you die.
Every scenario you run through,
you die. Dead. I mean, you're not walking out. You're not building a fire. There's nothing out there. It's just vast nothingness.
Gosh. You went 750 miles in that box, right?
750 miles, yeah. It was like, oh.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite something.
How close did you get to your bear?
I think when I killed him, he was 45. I think I made it up to about 30 yards to him,
and so that was a hair-raising experience.
Yeah, he was, I don't know, I kind of had that switch go off that, like I was being a little bit more aggressive and more than my guide was comfortable with, like he's like, you shoot now. He's like, he's 50 yards. I'm like, no, I'm going to go closer, and he's like, no,
like why? We don't need closer.
I don't know. It just didn't seem to me like it was that, because the dogs kind of hassled the bear, and it just didn't seem like I was ever. I guess I was stupid enough or ignorant enough to not be, that spooked by it. But yeah, the guides have a lot of respect for him, big time. But anyway, just an experience.
Checked out off the box.
Off the list. Yeah, exactly.
You've had some adventures. You and Guy ended up in Tajikistan at the same time.
Yeah,
unknowingly until on the way back.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize him. I've known Jim for almost 20 years. I walked right up to him in the airport and introduced myself as Guy Eastman. To someone I've known for 20 years. I said, Jim, is that you? What'd you lose, like 30 pounds?
A lot, yeah. I kind of had some bouts with the local food.
Didn't we all, right? The beard, your eyes were all sucked in. I'm like, oh my gosh, Jim, do we need to get you to the hospital?
Yeah, it was rough. That was rough. And just that elevation and everything. It's that's a humbling experience there too.
Oh yeah.
You were telling me about talking about the road. Oh. So how long did you guys travel on this? You both traveled on the same road.
Same road, yeah. We had to be close to the same time, I imagine. Yeah. But yeah, that road, I think, because we've spent, I think it was, I want to say 12 hours the first, and then we stayed in Korog overnight.
Yep.
And then it was about 7 hours from there, right? I mean, so it was just brutal.
Yeah, it was 12 for us from Horog, so 12 and it was.
Yeah, you guys were further north into the east. It would be, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fly halfway around the world, you get off the plane, and they're like, "Oh, now we got to drive for 24 hours."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and I don't mean drive on roads like here.
No.
It's like the worst dirt road you've ever seen for 24 hours.
Unbelievable, yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah, that's an experience. Like I've had people, tell me that, and they say whatever you can do, make sure you take the flight back from Korog. Don't take that road. Well, we got there, and they always say, well, there's a chance that there's a plane. There's a chance that there's a plane. And then of course you get there and there's no plane. No, there's no plane. And I looked at the runway and there was like a half-inch of dust on it. I'm like,
there's weeds growing on.
I don't think
had a flight in Horog in 10 years. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think
everyone I've talked to that has done it, they always say, how about that road?
Yeah, it's just amazing. And it's just so long. I mean, like I've been on some hairy roads, of course, but not that long. And those guys go. I mean, they're clipping on those roads like way faster than they probably should.
And our weather was pretty nice. I can't
nice.
imagine what the weather should have been that time of year on
Yes.
that road.
Yes.
Well, I've heard them tell stories of ice and.
Yeah, they said they had a hunter last year that they had an avalanche on the road, closed the road, and so he spent a couple nights like in the local village there, the closest one, and he never did get to do his hunt because they don't have equipment to clear the road or anything, so he couldn't get there. So
Oh, wow! How.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
The worst part about going, so, you know what I mean, Jim, some of these hunts, the worst part about them is if you didn't get anything and had to go back.
Oh.
There's one guy in our camp who didn't shoot a sheep. He passed up on some, and he has to go back. And I'm like, he was all excited to come back because he gets to come back for free or whatever. I was like, no, that's a curse. You actually want to come back?
He did want to come
Yeah.
back? Oh, was he just saying that?
Yeah, I don't know. He might be just saying
How much
that now,
vodka
but-
was involved?
Yeah. He never got sick, but he was from Denmark, so he's a Dutch or a Dane. But he, I would not want to go back there.
That was a tough hunt. I know they were talking about, some of the guys were talking about, well, what's your next sheep, and I said, I like something, maybe even a domestic sheep.
I think it's Mary's Little Lamb. Maybe one of those Texas doll sheep.
Yeah, let's tone it down just a little bit. I need to take a breather. And then, of course, off I go again.
On the doll sheep.
It's so bad. It's that bug. Sometimes I wish I would have taken up bowling or something different than mountain hunting.
Well, yeah, boy, I think I've been on some tough, grueling hunts. Those, just even the polar bear and then the Tajikistan alone, that was just wild. And these hunts, though, you go on them, you plan for them, you train for them, and they're so tough and grueling. And you almost, at the time of the hunt, you're really not having a lot of fun. You're just putting in a lot of effort. It comes together, that's fun. But when you get back, you have this. Your brain has this way of forgetting all the bad times that you had, or it just doesn't seem that bad. I'm headed back to Colorado, this year, back in this grueling spot that I go back to. But you kind of forget all the bad, and you just remember the good. And you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go back.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I didn't die.
It's like my wife with the baby. After she has, I'm never doing that again. Okay, and then 2-3 years later, hey, maybe we should have another kid. I'm like, oh, you've forgotten all those things? Here, let me write them down for you.
Here, let me show you the video.
Yeah. The human mind just does that.
Yeah. It's a sickness for sure.
Well, if anyone is in the Bozeman area and they're they need new boots or want to check out boots, they got to come here. Just if anything, just to see all those mounts.
Yeah.
I think you have the most sheep in that showroom of anywhere I've been in a very long time. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Me and my partner, all those animals are mine and my partner Bob's, which is pretty amazing. And I say, you know what this makes me think of when I walk through here? I'm like, we're old. We've been doing
There's a lot of years stacked up in that.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, you could tell there is
Blisters.
a lifetime of hunting
There
in that
is.
showroom, isn't there?
Yeah.
2 lifetimes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And still being added to.
Yeah, and he's lucky too. I mean, he's like the second luckiest, applicant. Like he won the Arizona antelope raffle, the super tag this last year.
He did?
He did.
Don't tell Mike.
Okay,
two tickets. He bought 2 tickets. He says his philosophy is he always buys 2 tickets, right? Because he figures if he screws one up, then the second one is a backup.
Oh my gosh.
So if you're ever at any of these conservation dinners and Bob and Jim are here, either don't enter a raffle or figure out which ones they entered and go in the other ones.
Go around, yeah, exactly. It's funny.
Oh, you guys are a hoot together. I've heard stories of
Oh, yeah.
Arizona Game and Fish with the hunter safety thing.
Yeah.
that is a classic. Because as you guys for those who don't know, if you go to Arizona and physically show up and do the Arizona hunting class, you get an extra bonus point.
Yeah, for life, for every species.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's worth it. You guys are down there for a show or something.
No, we were Coos deer hunting, actually, and our friend Brad is out there, and he's like, I've got a great buck spotted. And I'm like, and it was rainy, and they're like, hey, I don't think we're going to, because you're in there with the 12-year-olds, and so you got to shoot, shoot 22s, and and he, the guy says, of course we had, probably been drinking a little bit the night before, and he says, there's nobody here that, the guy thought it was funny. There's nobody here that's been drinking, in the last 24 hours, have they? And
he's looking at a whole class of 12-year-olds, but you two.
I kind of kicked Bob under the table. He's
Billy
like,
Madison and his buddy.
Exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, so Brad sends me a text. He's like, I've got a great coos deer, spotted. Can you get up here quick? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to catch a break because it's a rain out, and the guy comes out and says, I think there's a break. We're going to break out mats. I'm like, no. It's like, oh, well. So we had to go out and shoot 22.
Instead of a nice coos deer.
Yeah, oh, well.
Jeez. So what's new at Kenetrek this year? What do you guys got coming out?
We've got some pretty exciting things, as we've grown as a company, we've branched off into a couple of different designs and different things like that. Like we do a lot of government business, we do a lot of law enforcement. We've got coming out for this next year, we've got a wildland fire boot, which is we're
good.
very excited about. And a lot of that is driven by our customers. They come to us and say, hey, I want to wear my mountain boots, and as a wildland firefighter, and I'm like, no, those aren't certified. They're heat sensitive. You
that's
can't.
Not FR certified.
Yeah, you can't do that. And so they, they've been kind of steering us in that direction for a long time. And so we're just in the final lab certification testing, and then we've got some military boots as well coming out.
Nice.
So yeah, we're definitely branching out and growing, and the hunting, side continues to grow as well. So. So it's knock on wood, it seems like the economy is really turning around for us, and we're doing really, really well.
Are you 20 years, 21 years?
No, we're not that. I think we started in, actually we started 5/5 of 05 was the actual day of the start of the company. Not on purpose, that just was accidental.
It's easy to remember.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome, 13 years. Wow.
13 years, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I was reading the start of the company where it dawned on you in 2004 on that sheep hunt when your feet got blistered up. So that's what you were talking about. You just deal with those blisters on your feet, and there is nothing worse than blistering your feet. It's just agony with every step, and you figure you're doing 20,000 steps a day.
Right. Just crippled. Just crippled.
Yeah, and there's just no. Yeah, once you blister them up or once you hurt them like that, there's no healing them up. The only thing that's going to heal them up is a month, and you don't have a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Not an option. Yeah, and so I'm pretty good at being a medic, and a lot of times I'm the medic in the camp. Take care of other people's ills as well, and dress them as best you can, and keep going, because a lot of times you don't have an option. It's like you can either quit or take some more Advil and go.
Oh man. Well, and it seems to me too. Blisters, when you start to feel that hot spot, that's when it has to be addressed, right? When to keep going and push through that little bit of irritation, you're just signing yourself up to get those blisters in those bad spots that then you can hardly heal or recover from. So yeah, wouldn't you say the same thing? Is that you gotta stop and address it. So like if I feel a hot spot, I'll stop, I'll change my socks. You can bandage it up. Also, change your lacing on your boots so it isn't pulling on that. What other tips do you have?
Well, the biggest thing, like I would say, is you need to keep your skin dry, because it's almost like the same principle that applies to how people get electrocuted in the bathroom, right? Like the electrical resistance and your blister resistance of your skin, if it's wet, it drops down to about 1/10 of what it is normally.
Wow.
And so when that happens, once your skin gets wet, it's much more susceptible to the friction, the blistering, and that's when it really occurs. So moisture is just like the absolute enemy, against your feet.
So that's where you change your socks.
Stop, dry your socks out, change your socks.
Let your feet dry out too, right? Because your feet kind of stay wet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll be way, way stronger, if you do that. And the other thing is, like, some people are cursed with having really, really sweaty feet. Everybody's different, as far as how much you perspire. And, some guys, even if it's 50 degrees or something, they just perspire like crazy, and so those guys really have to learn to manage that as best they can. And so a lot of times there, an antiperspirant is people don't think of that same antiperspirant you would use under your arms, you can use on your feet to kind of manage that moisture just to keep that load.
I haven't heard of that. Yeah, that's a
good
tip.
Absolutely. And foot powders, there's, like I say, everybody is different, and you need to come up with your own special custom formula for basically the abuse that you're going to put your feet through.
And then conditioning your feet too.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a big part of me is the trail running. Is I just beat my feet up and I get calluses everywhere, and so then those calluses, I don't get those rub spots right there. It seems.
And the muscles in your feet.
For sure.
Walking on flat ground is a lot different than side hilling for 4 days in the Northwest Territories.
For me, sitting in an office chair, nothing.
Right,
it does nothing.
Yeah.
Does nothing to condition my feet.
And then what are your favorite socks to wear, like on, say, a backcountry or a sheep hunt? And does it differ from a cold weather to a warm weather hunt?
Well, it kind of does, but usually in mountain hunting, you're talking about performance with the socks. And so usually there, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the perfect fit to stabilize your foot and stop motion, right? Moisture and motion, those are the two enemies.
The motion inside the boot.
Inside of the boot, yeah, exactly. Because then that creates friction, that can create blisters, and foot fatigue as well. And so, like for me personally, because I have a narrow, bony foot, definitely not a good mountain hunter foot like you, right?
I once had a bony foot.
It's gone now.
I fixed that.
Look at your track and say he's healthy.
He's healthy, yeah.
I think that was a fat joke.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, what I wear is I like to still wear a liner sock because, again, you have the theory between two socks and one sock is that you have, slippage between the layers of sock, versus against your skin in the sock. So to me, I wear our ultimate liner, and then because I have a thinner foot, I wear the Alaska over the top of that. And so that's a really heavy, very well padded merino wool, like we call it our super heavyweight. Most people can't wear that combination because it's too much. But we have the same sock in Canada, right? And so we have that's what we've developed with our socks is we've developed different thicknesses, so it allows you to customize the fit, for your foot in your boots.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, just how we're all different, but also how like the thickness of your sock. I always thought it tied to insulating value and the temperature, but I like your theory on it that it's actually for the fit of your boot.
It's the fit of the boot.
To fill that boot so you don't get that slippage. And so you wear the heaviest sock you guys make with the liner sock.
That's for me, because I'm trying to stabilize. Now, you don't want to cut off, blood circulation or make it so tight that, so you want to be right there, almost as snug as you can without doing that. As far as temperature, a lot of people think that, well, I'll wear, when it gets cold, I'll wear a heavier sock. Well, if you don't have room in the boots, you'll actually make the boot colder.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Because you crush the insulation in the boot and you reduce the circulation in your feet, and so really the warmest boot is going to be one that you can wiggle your toes freely and you really have good blood flow to your feet. And so a lot of times that's counterintuitive. We want to think, well, hey, if I, sock up or put 3 socks on, I'll be warmer. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
How about lacing? What's the proper way to lace it? I get that question a lot.
I mean, lacing, normally I would start kind of with the standard lacing. And then if you have anything like if you have high instep or something like that, or the lace doesn't hit you right, there's a lot of different things you can do lacing pressure-wise, like where you can skip over, or you can change pressure, like on the forefoot where you want it to be snug, or up to, the heel, across from the heel joint. And then lace the upper part completely loose, and you can do that by doing crossover laces, right? And so it's almost like you're doing a half hitch, every time. Yeah, so the lace folds on itself, and so that allows you to change pressure. So there's a lot of different things you can do there.
Yeah, so you take you adjust that boot, every section of that boot, by tying a half hitch in the lace, and then from there, the bottom section is tied down and how you like it for the fit, and then you move to the midsection, then you half hitch that, then you move to the ankle or the tie down. That's interesting.
Exactly, and a lot of it, is we try to do a lot of that with the hardware as well. Like we have a lace locker at the pivot point, on the ankle, so and that kind of helps you to accomplish that as well. So then oftentimes you just have to, instead of, going the normal way where you're an underneath to over the top, go over the top to underneath, and you get kind of almost like a little bit of a half hitch effect, and that combined with lace locker hardware, that'll accomplish it. So there's a lot of different things that you can do.
Gosh, it's just finding the combination that works for you.
It is.
Like
it
I like wearing only one sock, but I have to have insoles.
Yes.
If I don't put your insoles in my boots,
yes,
I'm a disaster.
Right.
I'm a disaster anyway. But my feet are a disaster.
Yeah.
How important are those insoles?
They really are important. I mean, that's one of the changes that we've made early on, and we basically designed our own, kind of took from all of my footwear experience with Superfeed or soles or, some of the Dr. Scholl's product, all the different products, and we kind of combined to really create the very best insole that we could. We were kind of the first. Most companies would come out with they just put a flat insole and they're expecting you to upgrade, and so they put in a insole that costs $1 or something that you're, and their thought is, well, you're going to throw it away and get your own custom insoles. It's like, well, instead we kind of went a different route and we decided to put in a $40 insole, because the thinking is that most people don't even think about it. They just put them on, lace them up, and go. And so that really is one of the huge secrets to our boots, is that we've got a footbed that's probably something that they've most hunters have never experienced before.
Oh, I need to check those out. My feet are built so tough that I never really deal with issues or problems.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
You are lucky.
But there too, I could really improve my endurance of my feet by having some more padding and more arch support, and just using a quality insole. It's going to make me hunt, more effective and more efficient. And my feet are going to feel better in the end. So I need to look into those.
And a firm heel cup is really important too, because that improves your alignment, improves your balance, and it reduces fatigue.
Slippage, I bet too.
Absolutely.
And not just fatigue on your feet, but fatigue on your knees, on your
absolutely.
hips, on your back.
Because it's that balancing. It's kind of like the way trekking poles work with you, just having that additional point of contact. It's amazing how much more endurance you have, because you're not always fighting to, keep balance, right? I mean, you just don't realize what that fatigue does to you over a, course of a day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a big proponent of those trekking poles, like you say, and it's not just to help you go up or stabilize you down, which it does do that, but you made a great point. Like, you use so much of your leg muscles for that balance, and that fatigues you. And when you're talking 20, 30, 40,000 steps a day, it takes its toll on you.
Huge
so those trekking poles, they're a game changer.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's kept me in the game. I don't even know if I'm in the game still, but at least I think I am.
Well, you will be in a month.
You're still out there killing stuff, so you're in the game.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, yeah, it's just so impressive to see, like I say, see those sheep and hear about some of the adventures you've been on, and then just your knowledge surrounding boots and Kenetrek. I know I learned a ton. I'm going to change some of my my feet care and boot lacing and things of that nature. But yeah, thanks a bunch for being on the podcast. I really enjoyed it, Jim.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime.
Thanks,
good.
Jim.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Really fun recording with Jim Winjum. That guy is an adventurer and a great storyteller. I really enjoyed sitting down with him, and it's fun to see the friendship that the Eastmans have built with him over the years. And I didn't need to say too much. You pretty much just get Jim started and then listen to his stories. And he's got great timing too. There's a lot of laughs in that podcast. But yeah, just really fun back and forth. I love those lighthearted podcasts, and it's fun to see people's personalities come out, like Guy and Ike Eastman as well. They've been the owners of Eastmans here for years, and they've been involved. But it's fun to get this glimpse into their personalities too, into this long form communication or conversation. Like, you get to hear who they really are, and they're both, Ike and Guy are both hilarious guys and have such a passion for Western hunting and so much knowledge. And so, it's just really fun to get them on the podcast and record one and cut up a little bit. So I sure enjoyed it. And I want to thank Jim again for being on the podcast. It's fun to kind of tell the stories of these guys behind the companies. Great recording. I want to thank Yeti for sponsoring the podcast. Yeti's just a great company again. They've got their thermoses and their cups, and they keep stuff hot and cold for as long as you need it, and then their coolers have just changed the way I hunt. Just able to keep ice longer. I'm able to keep out longer. I'm able to cool down game if I get it, and keep it in that cooler. And then having it be a bear-proof container. It's such a savior when you're camping in national forests where it's required to have bear-proof containers for black bears and for grizzly bears. Throw a lock on that bad boy and you're good to go. You're not going to get a ticket, or you're not going to get a bear that breaks into all your food. So great products. Want to thank Yeti for sponsoring the podcast. And with that, gosh, yeah, over there at Eastman's, gosh, we just did the podcast tour. We're really excited to keep recording and releasing these podcasts. I got some great ones coming up, and just getting excited. I've got a few saved up so I can go on these hunts. I got a really busy August planned, and busy September and October and November too, for that matter. It's going to be a great season. I can't wait. I'm just really going to go for it, and my training's been going great. I just, no injuries. I think I've been running the last 9 days in a row, all of 6 to 8 miles per day or more. I've been getting in some good 10s and 12s too, a bunch of elevation. I just feel really strong. So I'm excited, shooting at a whole nother level. Yeah, I just been diligent and disciplined, and shooting at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, and good quality arrows. And I fine-tuned with my setup, and messed with that a little bit earlier in the year. So yeah, I am feeling great. I just can't wait. I'm gonna walk around, and I'm really gonna hold out for some big next level critters. I'm also, another part of it is that I'm really gonna enjoy the experiences. I'm just gonna embrace it and enjoy it. And like these mule deer tags that I have, I know I can harvest a mule deer. Like I wanna push that level. I want to harvest a next level mule deer. And so, I'm going to have a tag in my pocket, and I'm going to have days to hunt, and I'm going to cover country like a madman. And I'm going to pass on bucks here and there. And when I find the one that I want, that's going to make me extremely happy, that's the one that I'm going to put a stock on and put a play on. But, just extremely confident coming into hunting season. And I'm just ready to immerse myself in the mountains for some adventures, and share some good times with buddies. And I also have some good solo hunts coming up this year. I'm excited about that. Lately I've been filming hunts, or I plan them with buddies, and I really enjoy sharing hunts with buddies, but I also enjoy those solo hunts. So to have a couple big ones planned where I'm going to be by myself for 10 days traveling the mountains with my bow, I'm just thrilled. I can't wait for the challenge, and yeah, I'm super excited. I know you guys are too. I know you guys got some good tags and some good hunts coming up, so keep working hard towards your goals. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record another solo episode. I'm going to do one on just the final preparations of season, and kind of talk about the hunts I have and game plans going in, and just pertinent information for this time of year. So excited to sit down and record that one. I'm going to do that here this week, and release this podcast here today or tomorrow. I got another one to release this week, and then that solo one will come right after that. So really excited. Just going to try to put out some really good content to you guys, and prepare you guys for hunting season. And man, just keep working hard towards your goals. We're less than a month away, and at least I'm less than a month away. Some people might be a little bit further out, but right now is the time to work hard and to peak. I mean, once you get into season, you don't have the opportunity to get yourself in better shape. I mean, you get to hike, and which puts you in better mountain shape. But man, the preparation to come into season fully prepared, to come into season shooting lights out, it just gives you a lot of confidence walking around the mountains. And the time to work hard and improve and be ready for season is absolutely right now. So keep working hard towards your goals, you guys. I'll check in with you here later this week.